Welcome. This is Anthony Nayagan. We are doing a series of talks on a variety of subjects related to spirituality. And now, these videos, these discussions are not restricted to Christians alone. In spirituality, there is no room for institutional religion. So it applies to anybody who is seeking enlightenment. Last week, we talked about the limited and unlimited mind. And today, we will discuss miracles and how miracles affect a spiritual seeker. There was a headline news in February 2018, and it says, "The 70th miracle, Lourdes healing officially declared supernatural." See, the church has a very unusual bureaucratic process about miracles and how they go about validating and proving a miracle as a miracle. And it's really a long process, and I find it's rather unbelievable. But they go through that, and the reasons why, well, I'm not here to be apologetic to the church. See, let's look at the miracles of Jesus. See, church is not always able to validate and prove the miracles of Jesus. There is all kinds of contradictions, and even people, even to date, they argue that the miracles of Jesus are not inspired by the divine consciousness. It could be done, in a variety of other influences as well, and that's an argument I always hear. Now, I always had a question: why people who witnessed and benefited from the miracles of Jesus did not show up to defend him at the time of his trials. See, there could be a few reasons why. Perhaps people are used to prophets and saintly people doing miracles. Perhaps people expected more from a Messiah than performing miracles. Perhaps people failed to look beyond the signs and wonders Jesus was, in other words, performing. But what is a miracle? See, miracle actually, if you were to define them, it is actually transforming a matter. Change water into wine, multiply bread and fish, control the storm, heal ailments by reviving the cells and organs to healthy conditions, transform a dead body into a body with life. Well, these were considered miracles, but fundamentally, there are elements there are matters being transformed by way of divine consciousness. In other words, a consciousness, Jesus says anyone can do miracles in his name. That means in his name means, in the awareness of his consciousness. When you are aware of a divine consciousness, you can do miracles. See, transforming matter. Look, all Christians should be able to do this. For Jesus specifically said, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father." See, I go on to my Father it means that Jesus is realized of the ultimate supreme consciousness, supreme divine consciousness. That's really what it is. I go on to my Father. But a lot more than that is going on here. We should be able to do miracles, even better miracles than Jesus as Christians. See, believing in Jesus is not at all enough for our own salvation as Christians. James 2:24 says, "You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone." See, works means that we have to do what Jesus is telling us to do miracles. We have to do that. In fact, Jesus says, do miracles as I did. He says, do miracles, even more miracles than I did. More powerful miracles than I did. And that's what Jesus is telling us to us. Is believing in that, in those words, is good enough? See, we must do works, and our works must include greater works than Jesus. But the bureaucratic validation process of the church contradicts, in a way, the works of the faithful. Let me share the works of the faithful. It is not a surprise that there are faithfuls, ordinary faithfuls are performing miracles. I was a part of many of these. I have witnessed many miracles, directly witnessed many miracles. I'll give you some examples. See, in this occasion, there was a retreat in Chennai, India, and there was a man who suffered paralytic stroke, was brought to the retreat on a wheelchair. Now, this retreat venue did not have ramps so that the wheelchairs could easily go. So I personally, with a few other people, we carried the man and the wheelchair together over the steps into the venue. Now, this is a charismatic retreat, and in the middle of it, there was a praise and worship session. And this man got up from his wheelchair and started dancing. See, at the end of the retreat, this man came down the steps and got into the car. There are other people carried his wheelchairs into the trunk of his car. For all of these, this retreat was conducted not by a priest, not by a nun, but by a man, an ex-convict who was in prison for gang violence, murder, and drug dealings. He is the one who performed this miracle. That's an ordinary man. Now, if I have to talk about people who are priests and even people, mystics of other religions, and the number of miracles they performed, I can list a few of them. I have seen people multiplying food. I have seen very sick people getting healed. There are a number of them, really, there are a number of them. See, so can ordinary people perform miracles? The answer is yes. These are miracles where a matter, an organ, a nervous system, those things being transformed. How about transforming the lives of people? Is that a miracle? See, Jesus, when a mob of men before they kill her. Yeah, the miracle was they did not kill her, and because Jesus said, whoever without sin may cast the first stone, and everybody dispersed. We all know that. But what we don't see is the actual transformations of that mob. Brothers and sisters, don't take lightly of mob violence, especially when they have immunity. They are more cruel, more violent, or more beastly than anything I have seen. I have rescued people from such situations. I have seen those people. See, even to date, there are so much mob violence goes on in a number of different countries. See, this mob violence is something more ferocious than anything I witnessed. But see what happens. It is not just the words he said, whoever is without sin may throw the first stone. That is not what it is. Jesus did something to transform these people. And every one of them left her alone and walked away. That is transformation. Another instance, let's look at Mary of Magdalene. Officially a prostitute, and became the most incredible mystique in the entire history of the gospel. How did that happen? A hardcore sinner transformed as the most incredible mystique. Look at his apostles. Ordinary, uneducated fishermen becoming leaders of the church. See, the forgiving and life transforming mercy of God, I witnessed this several times. See, I took care of a man who was dying of cancer, and when I went to see him, the first thing he told me is, "You're fine, you can take care of me, but don't say a word about him." I said, "But who is him?" And he said, "About Jesus. I don't want to hear a word about him." That's what he told me. In 5 weeks he died. But you should have been there to witness. You should have been there to witness his death. The man joyously asked me to pray over him, and I continued to pray, and I continued to, surrender him and offer him into the hands of Jesus. And he died, smiling, hearing the words and voice of Jesus. A grateful, glorious, beautiful, joyous death. And this man, for how much I know about him, is another real hardened sinner. I have a cousin of mine. This man is about my age, and he had a rather miserable young life. He was a gangster, and he was stabbed almost to his death at a very young age, early 20s. And today, he is a beautiful mystic, beautiful man. How did that happen? Well, why go so far? Look at me. I left the church in my early 20s. I committed a lot of sin only to make God mad. Only to defy him, I committed sins. With so much awareness, I committed sins, many sins. See, he remained faithful to his calling for me, and he walked with me everywhere I walked, in all the dangers I faced. He took me through everything, but he protected me, and I was aware of the protection all along. But he still came along with me. Went through many religions, practiced many religions, and I was defiant. And I was a sinner. And look what he did to me. He brought me back, blessed me with enlightenment, made me write a book, and here I am. See, brothers and sisters, these are serious miracles, more serious than transforming matter. This happens all the time around us. See, this is hope. It is hope in God for hardcore sinners, people who have left the church, people who are in a moral dilemma, people who have lifelong addictions, people who are sick, people who have deep-rooted wounds such as rape, such as incest, such as molestations at a defenseless age. See, this list can go on and on and on. Because the transforming power of Jesus is always with us. All we need to do is seek that awareness. And when we have that awareness, transformation will definitely happen. I testify to that. Just come into that awareness of Jesus. Come into that awareness of God. Come into that awareness of divine consciousness. Brothers and sisters, when we have this divine consciousness, transforming matters is normal. Even transforming the consciousness of other people, it takes a little effort, but we as enlightened beings can do that also. In other words, leave the church alone. Let it be the institution that it is. But miracles, whether it is transforming matters or transforming other consciousness, is a calling and a responsibility of every human being. All it takes is seeking of divine consciousness in our lifetime. That's all there is to it. That is how we can do greater miracles than Jesus, the way he instructed us to do. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you.